Thank you, Mr. Warren. I now ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the following letters from the Association of American Railroads and the Coalition for the Northeast Corridor, as well as a letter from the Rail Passengers Association CEO. Without objection, so ordered. I'd like to thank you all. Thank you both for your testimony. We'll now turn to questions from the panel, and I will recognize myself for 5 minutes. I appreciate you, Mr. Gardner. It's good to see you. I see you got the chief behind you there. Thank you for coming. I want to bring to your attention, I'm sure you're familiar with the Office of the Inspector General, this report that talked a little bit about safety and security. Amtrak has opportunities to strengthen controls over high security keys. Both you gentlemen familiar with this report?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Warner, familiar with the report?
I have not had a chance to read it yet.
Okay, Mr. Gardner's familiar with the report. You know, and I'm trying to read this, and there's so many redactions. I'm trying to put this puzzle together, but they obviously redacted so much here, obviously some type of a safety or security concern. Can you assure the members of this committee that Amtrak is doing everything it possibly can with the employees that are authorized to have a key or employees that are no longer working, either resigned or terminated, that they don't keep their keys to some of these high-risk security areas? What are you doing to make sure that we can protect Amtrak?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, absolutely. We have, as a result of the good work of the Inspector General, we've revamping our key control process. I can tell you for a long time, these kind of switch keys have been around in sort of collectors' hands, and when I was on the freight railroad side as a switchman, had access to many of them. Those days are over now. We are controlling these tightly, and we appreciate the OIG's work there.
Well, I think it's obviously it's very damaging in my humble opinion. I think the gentleman sitting behind you, between you two, maybe will be able to help you with that, trying to get some of these keys back to individuals that no longer should have them. And I believe there was a report out there that some knucklehead or former employee was selling these things, putting them on the internet. It could become a big, big problem for all of us. How much, Mr. Gardner, how much money will Amtrak receive through IJA over the next 5 years? How much money?
Mr. Chairman, it's $22 billion is the advanced appropriation funding to Amtrak directly. The other portion of transportation.
$22 billion. That's a lot of money.
Absolutely,
all right,
Mr. Chairman.
I want to spend just a moment here and talk a little bit about CRISI and CRISI grants. With the enormous amount of money that Amtrak is getting from the American taxpayers, I'm suggesting that Amtrak should not be allowed any more CRISI grant funding over the next 5 years while you are receiving tens of billions of dollars over the next 5 years. I mean, when you look at the CRISI grants, I think in 2022 is about $1.4 billion. For those of you that don't know what CRISI stands for, it's Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Improvements Program. And by hearing the testimony from the minority and hearing testimony, you're getting billions of dollars to help with your infrastructure, your improvements. And CRISI grant funding, in my humble opinion, should be set aside for the Class 2s and the Class 3s. So I am just letting you know that it would be my intent, while you are receiving billions and billions of taxpayers' dollars over the next 5 years, that Amtrak should not be allowed to participate in the CRISI grant program. You stated that security in 2023, and I appreciate the fact, 84% ridership. I think you're going to get to 89, and eventually, maybe by the end of the year, you'll get to the 2019 levels, which would be 30-something million passengers?
Next year, we will achieve 32 million riders.
Fantastic.
Yep.
I think that's great. And I think while you did state that security or safety is your #1 priority, I can certainly appreciate that. Mr. Warner, I've had the chief in my office before. We were talking a little bit about safety and on traveling on a train. I mean, I was an old lawman for several years, understand a little bit about safety and security. And I was always puzzled by the fact that I can jump on that train outside at Washington, D.C. here. I can go up and buy a ticket. I don't have to provide any ID. I can pay for cash. You can take that ticket, give it to the guy, and he could give it to someone else. There's no matching bags or anything. You can just carry a couple suitcases on a train, right? You don't have any detectors or anything to go through to get on that train. How is Amtrak, what are you doing to make sure that you don't get some individual that has bad intentions, someone carrying a firearm, from getting on a train when you, I mean, I can't get on an airplane with a bottle of water. I can't get on an airplane, even having a glass of water. But it appears to me that to get on an Amtrak train, you don't have to have any ID, your bags don't have to match the manifest, they're not inspected, you got puppies out there sniffing, I support all that, but what are you doing in the rural areas to make sure that you can keep those passengers as safe as possible?
Certainly for each of our individual railroads, safety and security are the foundation of everything. You can't have riders if you're not promising and guaranteeing their safety and security. As a commission, we focused on the infrastructure, so it's an issue more for our individual members than we have addressed as a commission. When we were created, there's actually a separate safety committee that was created separate from us that was to look at those issues, and we were to focus on the infrastructure, cost sharing, and coordinated planning. So those are critical issues for our members and our riders, but as a commission itself is not something that we have addressed directly.
Well, I find it kind of disturbing in many ways that, you know, this is public transportation, billions of dollars going to it. Obviously, we had tragedies on 9/11 with an aircraft, right? And look at what we did. We created a whole new organization and put billions of dollars into it still today to make sure that the people traveling on airplanes across the country are safe. And then you look at Amtrak's operations. And I know the chief behind you, he's eyeballing me right now. He's thinking I'm doing everything I can, but you have billions of dollars now. I think you need to try to not convince me, but show me that safety, Mr. Gardner, is an actual priority, that you're doing everything you possibly can. I'm going to finish it up with this, and that is, I read some stuff here about the board meetings. You know, you have these board meetings. I don't think those board meetings are open to the public. I don't think they're part of the public record. I think transparency is so important, and bonuses. Mr. Gardner, would you care to share with me what your salary is every year? What is your salary, your annual salary?
The annual salary is a matter of record. We have disclosed it. It's currently, for my position, it's a little bit less than $500,000 a year.
$500,000. And I appreciate you just willing to share that. I think the American people have a right to know. It's the taxpayers paying you. I'll tell you what mine is, $174, just with everybody else up here too. I could tell you every salary of every person serving in the United States military. I mean, it's pretty much public record. So it's an annual salary of $500,000. And so when you have these meetings and they're not access, you know, they're not open to the public when it talks about bonuses. Did you receive a bonus last year? Did you take a bonus?
For fiscal year 22, yes.
Well, can I ask you how much that bonus was?
I'd have to get you the specifics numbers, but it's a portion of the salary based on the company's performance. So
Okay.
as I'm sure you know, the Congress has passed a law encouraging us to develop a pay-for-performance system. The Inspector General recommended, the GAO recommended one. We use this in order to entice great employees to the company and retain them. The salaries that we provide at Amtrak are pale in comparison to our freight railroad counterparts, from which many of our employees come. It's essential that we have the best employees to be doing the public's work and delivering on this incredible investment plan. We use this as a retention tool, and it's very consistent with private sector business everywhere.
I appreciate that. I just think, Mr. Gardner, I think when it's taxpayers' money, I think transparency is so important. There should be transparent, and there should be no reason why you wouldn't be willing to share with, and you did share your salary, but the bonus, whether it's 25% or 50%, I think the American taxpayer has a right to know what they're paying their leaders with Amtrak. With that, sir, I will now yield 5 minutes to Ranking Member Larson for his questions. Oh, wait. Oh, Mr. Payne, I'm sorry. Mr. Payne.